Hello, everybody, and welcome. Here we are again. Another month has passed, and so that means it's time for another PMP end-of-month review. I'm flying solo this time. Unfortunately, my normal co-hosts were unavailable, couldn't make the schedule work, but that's okay. I hope that the insights or that I am able to provide will be good enough, and don't worry, we'll be back on schedule next month with our return to form, and we'll have some other reviewers with me. So, but for now, I didn't want to let a month go unpraised because we had so much good work this month. I mean, my goodness, this was just an absolutely stunning month for the PMP. And the thought of not doing this really just bothered me to my core because so many of people did so much hard work, and I want to make sure it's recognized. I apologize, by the way, I have my glasses on. Don't worry, I'm going to switch over to screen share soon. I can't see the screen without them. So, at any rate, let's get right into it, shall we? Okay, here we go. So I'm going to jump over right now. We're going to share up. So before I do that, there we go. All right, before I do that, I just also want to say, for anybody watching who doesn't know what I'm talking about when I say the PMP, that is the Painters Motivating Painters Google Plus community. We've had a lot of new members recently because of the budget of Sigmar, which I'm very excited about as a project. I'll put a link down to that video below. If you don't know what the PMP is, it's a great community of hobbyists of all types of war games. We get together and it's all about setting a pledge and motivating each other to get that work done, to get more of those awful gray primed models gone from the world. That's the big goal of the PMP, to share in the hobby journey together. And it's a fun community with a lot of positive people who are always looking to provide good feedback and a lot of fun for those who really love the hobby aspect, as I know I do, and as I know every member of the PMP does. So there we go. Now we've got the full preamble out of the way. Let's go over here. All right. Okay. So let's start out. It's going to be just a lot of me talking, so settle in, folks, because it's going to be it's going to be quite a while of me talking. And we're going to go back to the beginning of September. Seems so long ago now, but we'll start right here with Matt McGrew, who had his, obviously, some part of the Age of Sigmar box set here. I think we all recognize these boys pretty well by now. And Matt's executed very well on the GW heavy metal team color scheme. I really like a lot of Matt's work, having just painted my way through that box set, plus plenty more. I can see, by the way, right there in the background, the suite of colors used for it. I like that we took them right in front of the shelf with the Retributor armor and the Liberator gold and all that. And so that's pretty cool. These guys look absolutely great. It's a fantastic execution of the gold and blue color scheme. They look really nice. This is a extremely clean, good-looking paint job. And I think, Matt, you should be absolutely proud to have these guys on the table. Let me just say that right out of the gate. Like, if you told me this was, some GW stock work, I would certainly believe it. So I think that right there is a great sign. Very good use of the colors and everything here, especially good use on the gold. Like when I zoom in here and look at the gold armor, you've done a very good job with the washes and the highlights and that sort of thing. I think if I had one piece of feedback to give, it would be very simple, and it would just be that the blue feels like it could use a little more highlight on the shoulders and on the shields, and that's really tough. Even I don't think most of the time when you see them in the pictures, they don't have that, because it is the kind of thing that there are these big, large, flat surfaces, and they're hard to highlight realistically without doing a lot of glazes. But if you want to sort of, take it up to the next level there with them, the way you could do that is to sort of put just go with a straight white over top, like a very thinned down white, and then take a lighter colored blue that's still very close to this blue, and then just thin that way down and glaze over that a bunch until you just had a slightly lighter shade of blue right up here in this area. That being said, that's a minor thing at best. These are clean, fantastic, great looking paint jobs that you should be very proud of. So Way to go, Matt. All right, moving on. Rasmus. Rasmus finished up his 2 gates here, and I like these guys very much. He did a good job. He mentioned that the photo washed out some of the fire color, and I absolutely believe that. Being someone who's painted a lot of like reds and oranges and yellows, it's a very funny thing. Like, unless you have very perfect lighting, especially I think with a sort of black backdrop with correctly adjusted lighting, it will just knock that transition right out of it. Like, white will just clear out that color transition when the camera tries to adjust. That being said, very good work here, and I'm sure the fire is much more bright. I did a couple of these this month too. These are great pieces. I really can't recommend these realm gates enough. If you like terrain, they really are pretty awesome. They take dry brushing well, they take wash as well. They're just a fun piece to paint. Now, that being said, I like what you've done here. It looks really good. I like the addition of the tufts here and there. Those look very good. The skulls are picked out nicely. I think, and one small thing that I particularly like is he didn't do these carvings or whatever in metal. I know the stock GW has these in metal, which I don't particularly like. I don't understand that. I've never seen metal embossed into stone in that fashion. I'm not saying it's never happened in the history of the world. I'm just saying I don't know of any examples of it. And, you know, you look at the Parthenon, there's not metal sunk into the thing. So I like that he kept it all stone. I think that's the way to go. If I was going to say anything here, I would say that I'd love to see a little more highlight on this. It's very dark, and I'd love to see some other tonalities in this stone. So stone is very rarely just gray. Stone, if you Google, say, images of like granite on a mountainside or the Parthenon itself, what you're going to see if you look really closely and zoom in and really look at it is you're going to see browns and reds and greens and stuff like that. Because if the stone is out there, it's being weathered, it's organic, it's in nature, and nature itself is rarely black and white, right? So a little bit of, and you can do that a lot through just washes, sepia, agrax, Athonian camo shade, all those, you know, the crimson color if it's thinned way down, because that is super strong. But all those sorts of things. And you can just get a little color into the stone itself, and that'll really just kick it up a notch. But very, very good work, Rasmus. I like these. All right. Moving on. Okay. Let's jump up here. So little 40K for the Emperor. We've got a little Space Marine bro. I like this guy. I particularly love the freehand banner. I think this guy is pretty hilarious. There's not much more I can say about it. I know this is a particular chapter. I know the yellow is a particular chapter. I don't know 40K well enough to say which one it is. This guy is clearly a very angry Space Marine, but I love a little comedy, and God knows 40K could use a little humor. So I say, way to go, way to bring some levity to the grimdark. My particular favorite is the "Your Face" here. I think that's some of the funniest text on here. Quite good. Yellow is a really tough color to work with, just because it's hard to make yellow actually look yellow. You've done a very good job with that. Your darker parts on your yellow are brown, which is pretty appropriate. Yellow is going to go to either brown or orange, depending on sort of the lighting and what else is going on. All in all, this is a very fun piece. I like it a lot. I think it's very good, and I very much like the custom banner. Well done. All right. Comedy is always pretty great. All right. Now, I'm sorry, that was Mr. Lee Mechshop. So let's move on to Lee Ashcroft, who finished his big bad Bloodthirster. And this is the one of, I'm going to say, Insensate Rage, because he's got the big axe. Sounds right. I could be wrong. I don't know off the top of my head, but I'm going to say Insensate Rage. I'm sticking with it. And I have made it well known that I am not a huge fan of this model. I think I don't like the little flame he's leaping on. Now, that being said, my personal bias is out of the way. Lee, you did just an absolutely great job with this model, and I want to take a moment to pick out some of the things that Lee did really well here. His fire is just top-notch. He's got the lighter colors where it's hotter, but still mixed in. It's not a completely vertical thing, and so the tips are going to oranges and reds. That's great. His wing work here is fantastic, with the darker shades being near the bone and the thinner or the lighter color being where the wing membranes are stretched, excuse me, more thin out toward the middle. Exactly right again. Always like just wonderful, wonderful work here through what looks like a, washes and layers and dry brushing and all of that to come together to make these tonal changes. So very good work. The horns getting lighter toward the tips, again, also looks great. The skin tone looks very red, which is, of course, very wonderful for this guy. Very nice highlights on the face. I would love to see some more pictures of him. You gave me one. That's okay, though. And I'd also love to see we got to get you with a background here to take this picture. He's still a little fuzzy. We got to get you a better photo booth or something there, Lee. My only small notes, and this could be the camera knocking it out, but the bone pieces here look very monotone, and they're so stark and so white. They really stand out. Like when I zoom out on this guy, where do your eyes go? Your eyes go to these little bone chunks, and you don't want that. You want the eyes to go to the Bloodthirster, right? To the wings, to this massive BA model, not out to these tiny little bone tips. So I feel like these should be darkened in color, brought in through like a sepia or a sepia crimson mix into a more ruddy hue, and then just have some maybe this color white almost up the tip, this color ivory, I should say. So that way it's diminished and it brings that color palette in line with the rest of the model. All in all, though, absolutely fantastic work. Obviously, this guy's pretty BA. And one other just small note, and again, this could be the camera taking this out because this will happen. The blood pool looks pretty monotone. I'd love to see just some color variation in there, like some swirls or something like that. So some spots of pink or something underneath before you put on the blood for the blood god, which I'm assuming that's what this is. It certainly looks like it. But excellent use of that blood for the blood god. Or if this is maybe it could also be Tamiya X27 or something. But at any rate, I love him on literally a pool of blood. That's fantastic. So there we go. A little bit of pink underneath blood for the blood god will make the blood look much fresher and brighter. That's my experience working with it. Don't worry, it won't stay pink for long once you touch it with that blood for the blood god. I'm not really going to review my own work too much because it seems completely self-indulgent. I will simply click on this guy real quick. I submitted him. This is my converted Celestin Prime. He's made from obviously the Gardenermore building, the cloak off of the twins from Raging Heroes, the wings from Eltharion the Griffin, a prosecutor, the double-handed hammer from the Lord Celestin on Dracoth, the face of, I want to say, one of the Outriders or Pistoliers, and then the helm of a Bretonnian Knight. So there you go. There's probably a couple other pieces in there too. But this is my king, my Gilles Le Breton, having returned from my personal Celestin Prime. I love this model. It's probably my favorite model I've ever done. So you pardon me this one moment of self-indulgence to just look at him again. I really do love him and how he came out, and I'm very proud of the conversion and everything. So there you go. I hope you enjoy. And it's just more proof that you don't always have to, if the $80 model seems too expensive for you, it's sometimes more fun to do it yourself. I mean, this guy was maybe 30 bucks total to put together. So, it's, don't ever let price stand in the way of you having a model you want. Sometimes your creativity can really solve a lot of problems. Okay, moving on past my stuff. So Billy Smith here, let's jump back out. He had submitted his army for Rock Wars. He finally finished this up. I don't remember what all he had actually painted this month. I don't think this was all painted this month. That would be mighty impressive if it was. So if I'm wrong, Billy, please correct me. But then in which case you deserve a medal. But I just wanted to say this is just fantastic work. I'm, again, not a huge fan of dwarves. I wouldn't say I'm anti-stunty, but I'm a little anti-stunty. But this is just great work. The rune work on the banners, the color, I love the green running throughout here. And then finally this display board, which is just absolutely stunning. So Billy, I really have got to give you a huge thumbs up on this. Absolutely great work. Yeah, I mean, Every single part of this is wonderfully put together. I love even the variation of the patterning on the gyrocopter blades. If you look up here, you notice same colors, different pattern. It's little touches like that. These very quality runes. I love the various different runes and stuff like that, which are then reflected down in the stonework of the display board. Absolutely fantastic. So, I mean, this is A+ all the way. And I hope you got, you know, at least nominated or something for a painting award. You certainly deserved it with this kind of work. And if not, you were denied. You were ripped off, my friend. Okay. Let's move on. Like I said, we're going to skip most of my work. So Mr. Lee continuing with some 40K with Captain Tycho from the Blood Angels. I like this very much. So there's a couple different aspects of this I very much like, which is I love the heat effect he did on the gun. So this is the burnt metal effect. There's often not much call to do this in fantasy, obviously, but in 40K with plasma weapons and the like, when metal gets heated up repeatedly, you know, you can see this sort of effect happen. But this is great work. I really do like this very much. I don't know what notes I would give here much. I think it's very straightforward, very good work. I think if I was going to have any small note for you, and it's small at best, is that the yellow, like here, seems a little dirtier, and then the lines on this red. It feels like this was put directly over there, where that wanted is a more solid undercoat of the stripe, something like that. It's always tough to get your lines absolutely straight. Something like a micron pen to draw the edge line, and then you paint over most of it, but just leave the thinnest edge of a black line on it can often help to create the sharpness you're looking for there. But great job. Really cool model, too. All right. Rasmus is putting together some terrain, some nice terrain ready for AOS. There we go. Very colorful old world buildings here. I love it. Man, that is, talk about a yellow building. Whew, that is bright. And I know Rasmus very much likes bright colors and things like that, so I think this will look great on his table because a lot of his knights, his Bretonnian knights, are very brightly colored. So I think this will mesh in very well with that. Yeah, great stuff. Always happy to see more. You know, one of the great advantages of AOS, obviously, is the use of, you know, big terrain. So, hey, I'm glad to see more of it on the table. There's a lot of little touches I like here, like, again, the flock down here on the base where we've got some moss growing in the stone, things like that. So, yeah, real good work. I don't know what I would give in notes on this. It's pretty good. It looks like buildings, it looks this time it's very organic. The paint looks nice and weathered here. That's great. Good stuff. All right, moving on. Paul. So Paul has his battered and bruised steam tank. As we can see, it looks like this thing has seen some better days. We've got the worn out paint, and we've got the direct hole taken out of the side. Paul, I want to know, did you do this by like literally melting this thing? Like that almost literally looks like you held like a lighter next to it or something. I am odd because I don't know if that's actually the metal. I think that's the plastic steam tank, so he could have melted it. But I'm honestly curious, Paul. Tell me how you did that. Looks very good. I think my one issue with your bruised metal here is it doesn't look rusty. It still looks so bright and silver. So I feel like I know you're using some typhus corrosion to create the bumpy effect, and that's fine. I just feel like I need some exposed rust. Is the paint wearing away and all this damage still leaving bright exposed steel? It looks like it didn't weather at all in any real way because it doesn't have that brown. Things that are outside that are organic, they get worn and bruised and battered, and dirt from water running down them have browns in them. And I feel like that's what's missing here. I'd love to see some weathering, some streaking, some brown with even a hint of orange rust, that kind of thing. So, I mean, you may even want to relayer that on at the end and then just kind of do some work with it. But definitely communicating the idea of a steam tank that has seen some better days for sure. All right. Moving on. All right, Mr. Lee with his tester for his Horus Heresy Loyalist Army. Big box set of those guys coming out real soon. So here we've got a really good example of a battle damaged Space Marine. And Mr. Lee, I would love to know, are you using chipping medium to do this, or are you, doing it? Are you putting the gray paint on? Let's see if we can zoom in and find out. I can't really tell just from looking at it. It certainly looks good. This is what you would expect. Like, this is great. I love the brown tones in the pockets and recesses. Very good, looking old, weathered, kind of exactly what I just said. Like, we look up here where water would catch or collect or things like that. We get these brown tones. It's great. And I like the gray underneath. I have to imagine that Space Marine suits are something like, just metal colored when they're not painted over. I would assume the colors on the Space Marine suits are painted. So not pressed steel of that color. So I very much like this chipping and weathering effect here. And I think this is done to great use, especially up here on like the shoulder pad with the sort of emblem. I think that's really good. You can see it if we zoom in here. Yeah, this is great. Where it looks, I mean, that if you've ever seen a worn out street sign or something, right? I mean, he really captured that very well here. So I very much like this guy. He's very dirty, which is exactly obviously what we're going for. This guy's supposed to look, pretty battered and bruised. He came through some rough times. I think if I was going to say one thing, I'm not sure about some of the steel here. Like, this guy looks really battered and bruised, and then some of your steel is really clean. I mean, it's scratched, but there's no rust or brown over here. You've got a little bit over here on the side of the gun down at the bottom, which I like, but then I look everywhere else and I don't see that brown tones anywhere else on here. I'd love to see a little bit of like brown tones in the gun, in the sword especially. A big chainsaw that I've got to assume has oil or something in it to power this rotating chain blade. So I mean, I would only picture like gunk and stuff like that building up everywhere. But other than that small note, definitely a great example of how to do a really beat up guy. All right, back to Rasmus. So this is his Age of Sigmar Cult of Orrick army. Great looking guys here. I'm not sure if these are what these are ultimately going to end up being, whether they're going to be Stormcast or what. But I love these big bearded figs. I want to know what line these are from. Are these like the old metal Orrick figs, like knights, or where are these guys from? Did you convert them out? Because some of them obviously look. This one looks like he was put together from components out of like the old White Wolf knight kits or whatever. I recognize that. The rest of these guys, I don't know. Some of them are very, very unique, and I really like these models. They certainly communicate the theme. They definitely look like Orrick Knights, no doubt about that. I think if I was going to ask one thing on them, I'd love to see a little more of sort of the warmer brown tone here and there. So like right now, what stands out, the only contrasting element on all of them is their faces, right? I've got like this guy with a book, maybe a tiny little thing here and here. But for the most part, they're extremely in the gray tone, which is clearly what we're going for, and that's no problem at all, exempting their faces. And it really makes their faces like stand out. Like when my eye looks at the model, I don't notice their armor or their hammers, their cloaks or anything. That all just fades in to be gray in the background, and the face just leaps forward at you. And if you had some brown tones down with maybe their boots or some other pieces here or there scattered in, it would create more of that color triangle, and it would help to draw the eye along them. That being said, the wolf cloaks are done absolutely fantastically if we look here on this. I very much do like the use of the blue grays and the blues here in the cloaks. That's really good. That's great mixing of the colors, keeping that theme. So I definitely wouldn't say change that or make those cloaks brown or anything. No. Your cloaks are dead on. I like what you're doing here. It's good work. We also need to get you, Rasmus, a nice photo booth or something, or a white piece of paper to put these guys behind. You got to stop on this black thing. If you take it something on black and you don't have the right color adjustments, extra light around it that's being diffused, it's really going to sap the color out of your models, or make things look a bit wonky. So I'd say get some white behind there, and you'll be better off. Okay, moving on. All right, so John Crair had been commissioned for a Malifaux crew, and here's those guys. They turned out very nice. So we'll just kind of scan through them here. I like how these all came out. Oh, there we go. Sorry. Nice base work there with the bricks and the everything else we've got going on, our stone and all these sorts of things. I like the color palette on these. Good choices. I think if like the picture's very close up, and I know that from a distance, these sort of tonal, you know, like where I can see sort of stark line color changes would fade away. One way you can do to soften all of this is when we get to this stage, so basically done, take your mid-tone green, whatever that happens to be here, and just do a single glaze or two over the whole thing. And that will really smooth out all of this color and bring it back into the, you know, so you don't have these really stark color changes here. That being said, I want to point out that John did a fantastic job with these sort of, I don't know, night vision goggles, I guess is what they are. But they look absolutely great. Super glowing LED. Fantastic work. The brightest, hottest point is right at the center, and then he kind of diffuses the light out from there in that same color palette. So very, very good work. And I like how he carried it into the sword in this little, I don't know, crevice or whatever here. That's a nice way to tie the greens on the model together. So good work, John. I know the person you did this for, and I look forward to killing all of these models in my games of Malifaux. So that should be very fun. All right. Victor, with his squad of bikes, I know he finished these up. And, you know, we've seen some of these bikes before in the previous months as he's been working on them. These are obviously just masterfully done from Victor. I always find it hard to give any advice to him just because, I mean, you know, there's really not much room here. We should all be so lucky as to put out work this just absolutely fantastic. Good dirt collection on the steel, the tonal variations on the cream color, the blues into the bright white for the wings. All of this is just absolutely great work. The color variation on the flames. I could go on and gush about Victor's work for quite a while. But instead, you should all just go watch his videos for how he did these guys, if you're curious. Because he just did a great job. This unit's absolutely wonderful. Victor, I see you cleaned up some of the wheels. That's really good, where you've got the dirt scraped off of the sort of top treads and collected into the middle. Again, another excellent little tiny detail like that. You know, where the tire is consistently hitting the ground, it's going to be knocking the dirt off. Those treads, though, driving over mud, they're going to get caked in there pretty fast. He's got the mud then kicking up here on the side, too. So just absolutely fantastic all the way around. I really don't have much in the way of anything to say to Victor, and I don't know what I like. It absolutely super work, sir. Good stuff. Okay, moving on. All right. MC1 Gamer. Look at this. A completed unit from Mitch. Let me tell you what, buddy. That is great. So I believe these are his, I think he can use them as fell bats, as converted fell pegasi, as well as other things every so often. So these are from his Musalon, his Dark Bretonnian Vampire Count's army. Great use of the Musalon color theme, the yellow and black. That's absolutely great. So I love the thicker acrylic bases that he got. I'm generally not a fan of the sticks. Everybody knows that I like to put flying things mounted on stuff. I much prefer that. But these at least look much more solid than those tiny, weedy little sticks that that normally come with flying models from GW. And I would imagine that's pretty necessary because those wings on those those wings on these guys are metal. So I've got to imagine these guys are actually fairly heavy. Very good work, nice and clean. The black still looks like black, but you got some good highlights. The yellow looks very bright. I would say, and it could be the case that this is true and I just can't see it, but I think that if we look back at sort of Rasmus, where he had used some blue in his white, I think that would be my only piece of advice on this. Just a little bit of like a blue shade even like a Guilman blue where it's actually a glaze and it's very, or Guilman, I don't know how to say that, so I'm sure I'm butchering it. But the light blue glaze color from Citadel, from Games Workshop, looks really good when put into this gray-white palette because you're using the cold grays here for this and the cold whites. And I think that that would just give a little spark of color and honestly shouldn't contrast with the yellow and black. I think that would actually look really good together. That being said, my only other note for you, Mitch, what's going on with these bases, buddy? I'd like to see some more stuff going on down here. We got these nice rocks. Is there no vegetation in this world? No tiny little stunted dead plants? I'd love to see some black, you know, rotten plants or brown dying grass or something, right? It's dead people. There should be some dead grass to bring home the theme that where these guys go, death follows. But that being said, Mitch, I am super happy to see a unit painted for you, buddy. I know this army is an absolute labor of love. You should go check out all of Mitch's Convert This and such as on this army. He has been working on it for a while, and he really has put so much heart into this, and every unit has just a bunch of individual character. It's something to be really proud of as he moves through it. And really cool theme, too. As a fan of Bretonnia, I can't hate on anything that has to do with them, even when you are representing the traitor province there. All right, moving on. Mr. Lee Mech Shop's got a bunch of different 40K stuff here, so I'm going to kind of review it all and there's a lot, buddy. All right, so we'll kind of go through each in turn. All of these are really great. A lot of them are older models, so these are from some of the older editions. So we'll start with his older Weird Boy, which is out of focus there. Let's see if we can get a different one. There we go. Being carried by all the orcs around him. These older orcs, it's so funny to look at old 40K models and see just how heavily this was barely not fantasy, right? Them with their wooden axes and steel, and then laser guns on the other side. These guys definitely came from the 80s when the line between fantasy and sci-fi was a little more thin than we think of it today. And I love these guys. I know most people probably prefer the modern aesthetic and, you know, being purely technical. But I've got to say, this old Weird Boy just truly warms my heart with his little goofy sort of bell hat and their little axes and their little horned helmets. All these orcs are great. What a fantastic item to have in your collection. This super classic 40K army from the dawning ages of 40K. You know, say what you will for my money. I think these guys have got all the character in the world. And Mr. Lee did a great job here. One thing I really wanted to call out is I absolutely love the green tone he has used for his orc skin. This is exactly the way orcs should look to me. This sort of bright, almost minty green in this way. Molto bene, buddy. That's just great stuff. So looking at them in total, we'll kind of scan through them. Here's another older one. Great looking guy there. You're like, look at these guys. Come on. So my only notes after scanning over these is if you're purposely going for sort of a messy checkerboard because they're orcs and they're dumb and they're not clean people, no problem. Please ignore everything I say. If you weren't going for that, and this is just sort of the nature of painting small checkers are really, really hard, because they are, then my advice would be your best friend here is a small straight edge, like a piece of paper. For things like this, I like to use a business card and or something like that. Cut a little sliver off, lay it down in there. Take a 005 black micron pen and draw these lines. Then you can just paint the squares in. So that would be my thoughts on that one. Excuse me, I had to cough there. I'm talking a lot here, so it's going to take a moment. All right. All right. Good stuff. Let's move on and look at some more. Little Gretchen, the old school goblins. Again, looking very much more like fantasy goblins with guns. But I love it. Yeah, great stuff. And then more of these guys right here. So just the level of detail work he did on all these. To have so many of these sort of mono-pose figs, it's very easy for them to just come off looking similar. And he did a good job of varying up things like their shoulders and the wear and tear. If you look here at the chipping and the wear and tear, there's variation in it. And I like that. It's little touches like that that can break these guys up. So, well done. Very cool force. All right, so here we go. There's the whole collected mass of crazy old early era orcs and space Gretchen. Gotta love it. Bright, beautiful, just fantastic. Okay, skip some stuff for me there, and we will go into Ashicus the Muse, who had his little converted sorcerer's familiar. Very nice little conversion, obviously using like a daemonette head. Let me see if he actually says what. It may have been in one of his progress pics. He said what it was converted from. But clearly, obviously made like a little tiny daemonette with a huge head. And it looks weird, and it's supposed to. Because it's chaos, and it's meant to be weird and misshapen. But it's just a great little piece. And you can see the rest of his assembled Slaneshi force around, which I always love. I've always been particular to... I do love a good Warriors of Chaos Slanesh force. I do love the purples and the teals on there, and you've executed on that very well. She's adorable. What can I say? I don't know what else to say besides that. Absolutely cute little conversion. Wonderful little familiar. Okay. Victor did a nice little project here where he just did some rats real quick, and this is just great. One of the fun things about making rat swarms is that when you buy, well, pretty much anything in Skaven, you get these extra giant rats. So these come with like the Doom Wheel and I think most of the big monsters, Hell Pits and Plague Monks, and yeah, anything like this comes with these little rats. And they're actually surprised, as he pointed out in his video, they're actually surprisingly little detailed, with some have little plague spots and some have bones showing and little eye pieces and just all sorts of crazy stuff. And Victor did a great job here of making some really scenic bases with the rocks, the fallen pieces of detritus. He used the Nurgle's rot to make the goo. This is just a technical paint explosion, and I love all of it scattered around with some Blood for the Blood God in there. We've got some Nurgle's rot down here. You've got the Nilic oxide on the oxidized copper or bronze here. Really going all out with it. A lot of work on these guys, but they're just really fun. And I think they look really good. And also, you need a bunch of rat swarms now in AOS because they multiply. I wanted to point out something you can easily miss because he kind of blends in. But this little guy, the Plague Monk box set comes with, I think, 4 of these little guys. These little mini Plague Monks. I don't know what these guys are or what their point is, but they're adorable. And so so many times I've stared at these guys. I just want to get a whole pack of them and use them for my Plague Monks and just have like 24 of them. Put them on really big bases and just have them be these little tiny guys as little Plague Monks. I think they would just be adorable. I love that he used one. I love that there's just one sneaking in here in the rat swarm, like the one rat of the rat swarm who thought to put on clothes. It's great. All right, moving on. So Skeleton Flower has did a bunch of items for his for Malifaux, and we'll take some time on each of these guys. So this one is really nice. Skeleton has a very bright painting scheme, and he often works in really bright colors, and he does a great job of it. The color contrasts are really high, and so I think it's interesting to see. I think Skeleton's style is, some people might refer to it, or I might call it cartoony, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I've mentioned this before. So in cartoons or a cartoony style, it has extremely very stark color transitions. If we look here and we see the dark brown versus the yellow. And by the way, please don't think I'm meaning that in any bad way, Skeleton. I mean that in a great way, because to execute this style is honestly very difficult because you can get really stark, hard lines. He hasn't done that here. If we look, other than the sword, which is supposed to look like that, we have a lot of big transitions, but they look really smooth. Like just the line of the turban is there, and then we've got this little transition of brown here and here, and then right up into the yellow. Same with the reds, with the purples sneaking in here, the brighter oranges and such down here. I absolutely love the color palette chosen here. And by the way, just great base. If you made this, which I'm guessing you probably did, but if it came with a model, that's cool. But if you made this base, this is great work either way. The additions to the moss and the lichen and such down here with the rocks, that is good base work. Love it. This guy, just fantastic. I really have no notes except one small one to say that this line on the sword, you might have wanted to go over with a glaze of this mid color here, the actual metal color, and just kind of thin this out a little bit to smooth out that line. The line down the middle of the sword's a bit stark. Other than that, very minor note. Really great looking guy. So here we've got this fig again. Everybody loves these guys. Again, with this, again, if you made this base, hachi machi, way to go. Great bases. The thing I want to point out here is, again, very good use of these incredible color transitions on the yellow, going from this very dark, dark brown up to this super bright yellow. But these swords, man, those look great. Again, with that just ridiculous color transition from that deep maroon up to basically white. I think you might have been served by a glaze of perhaps a mid-tone over all of it and then thin lining this white. But that being said, again, minor nit. This guy is just so amazing. Once I only really see the starkness of the sword when I zoom out. That is to say, these kind of hard lines that the glaze might have softened. When I zoom out, it just sort of fades in, and you're not going to be looking at something from 3 inches most of the time. So this is just absolutely stellar. Skeleton's put in some work this month for sure. All right, so here's this guild lawyer. So he mentions in this that he's not super pleased with how the coat came out. And so I thought this would be an interesting thing to talk about purple. So purple is, especially when you get, purple's a really interesting color to work in. Dark purples, if you say take a hex lichen or something, are very translucent colors. They will show whatever is under them very easily. They will just tint things. Bright purples, because they have usually white mixed into them, are very stark and very not translucent, which makes sense if you think about it. White reflects light. So the more white I put into something, the more it's going to be non-translucent, right? So the more it's going to simply reflect the light. That's why white as an undercoat to then glaze over works so well. The white stays bright, the color on top is not as reflective. The thin coat lets the light travel through the thin outer coat, hit the white, reflect, and you get that nice mixed tone. So I think one of the tricks to doing purple, and it's really annoying when you want to do a soft transition on purple, is to basically do something like this, almost in a block style, and then just glaze the whole thing over with a darker purple that's nearly devoid of white, and then mix it up again. That, I think, so it takes longer, no doubt, but what you'll get is you'll smooth out that transition. It'll be a little more organic. If you really want to get into really vast color transitions with purple and not have it look stark, there's pretty much nothing that can answer that but time, unfortunately. So my simple answer is, if you want to go from real darks to real lights, purple's not your friend. But still a great job overall. I love, again, his transition colors up here on the mask, the skin tone, just wonderful work, like the lines on these skin tones. These guys are not big figs, by the way. If we zoom out so we can see his hand, these are small figs. So the level of detail work he's doing here is just phenomenal. All right. Okay, so here's his executioner. And a very good example of what I talked about in the previous one we'll see right here. So we have the yellow and the purple. Good colors, work well together. But if you look at the difference, so he's traveling the same distance pretty much in tone with the yellow and the purple. Yet the yellow looks pretty clean and smooth in its transitions, or smoother at least. But the purple, you can see this chalkiness to the white. So one trick to avoid this is don't add white. Take a dark purple and just mix in flesh tone. So you're not having pure white, which will increase that reflectiveness. The flesh tone will soften out the purple, will still make it brighter, but it'll make your transition smoother. But this is just a good example of exactly what I mean. That being said, this is great. I love his use of the oxidization on the copper. Very good use of that, especially around the bolts and the edges and, where water would sort of collect. That's very good. And I do love, again, the checker pattern down here, which, again, is very well executed on. This guy's got great movement to him, too. And I like how you got him kind of hanging off the end there with his little creepy evil claws. All right. So here is some of William Page, who completed some of his models. And I think what he's actually showing us here is the horrors, because I know most of this, I think, had already been in his army, like the dragon ogres and whatnot. So let's take a look at the horrors, because I'm pretty sure those are the new guys. Very unusual horrors. Obviously, almost every horror is just, gumdrops, because that's, of course, the standard Zinchi color is the gumdroppy pink. William Page, as usual, goes his own way, and it's very good job. I actually really like the orange ones. I'm not sure about the green will. I feel like they almost look nurgly, which I don't think is what you want. But the orange, I think, really pops. It's bright. I really like it. I think it works well on these guys. And it makes me wonder, I mean, I guess their name is Pink Horrors. When the color's in the name, it's hard to deviate, right? You almost feel like you're demanded to paint them a color. But William he's not going to let any name tell him what to do, and I like it. I respect you for it, buddy. These guys look really good. I like your base work here. It's very simple, just the stone and a little bit of the grass. I would like to see some taller pieces on the base here or there, like just maybe some stood up grasses or flock joints or something, or flock pieces or something like that. Just the occasional more vertical piece. That being said, these guys look really good. Very good color transitions all around. I really don't have much in the way of notes. They are pink horrors. You don't want to spend a lifetime on 10 pink horrors, but he did a really good job. All right. So Peter Marcus, new here, and well, hey, buddy, welcome. New to the PMP, new to Wargaming. We are happy to have you, sir. So let's take a look. He's got some liberators. Okay. Let me just say a couple things that I love what he's doing right out of the gate. So it seems that Peter is a man after my own heart, in that the first thing he did when he got a hold of these liberators is saw the hammers and lightning bolts off of the shields. Thumbs up. I did that with all of mine as well. So let's and put on the sort of Crusader cross, Knights Templar cross, as it were. Looks great. You're doing a good job with the gold. So let me say that, in that you have, most of these guys have some kind of triangle on them. They've got their gold heads, but then I see it on hilts or other little, diddly-doos. I think I would have liked it slightly better with the gold if it had also maybe been their belt buckle. I know that's a minor thing, or maybe even the gold down here inside. I feel like there's still a little too much gold up top. I'm still really drawn to their face, and I find it hard to look away because I've got this bright gold up here. I love that this actually recognizes this guy's a face too. Isn't that great? So I've got this bright gold up top, and that really draws my eye. And if I had had the belt buckle, or maybe even this down here, this loincloth or whatever, to also be gold, I think that would have then moved my eye around the fig. But, I mean, for being new to Wargaming, you're really knocking it out of the park here, buddy. Let me just say that. He's got some freehand up here on the shoulders. Let's see if we can get a better... I don't think he has a better image of that, but that's okay. We got some freehand up here on the shoulders with the inverse cross, Templar cross. Fantastic. Love to see you trying that right out of the gate. That is wonderful. I do like he's got the very hard lines. These are a little harder than I think I like as far as like the cutting out the muscles. And I think one way that could be softened, and look, I don't know if you maybe did it up here or not. Maybe this is intentional choice, and you know this, and I'm just telling you nothing. But I feel like you could have taken this cream color, this sort of cream color, down to a glaze and just glazed over this darker part a few times to soften and smooth it out, and still would have left the shadow. And maybe that's what you did up here, because I noticed that it is a little lighter color up here. Maybe that's a different wash. I'm not really sure. I like this. I feel like this should be just a little lighter because it's really stark in the way it stands out right now. Other than that, we got to get some bases on these guys, buddy. So I need to see some rocks, some foliage, really, that's not a word, foliage, something down here. So let's that's what we need. That's our next step. Overall, though, great color choice. Again, kudos to you for jumping right in and sawing off the shields and making them your own for an early effort. If you're new to wargaming and new to the hobby, just absolutely great work. Okay, some things for me we will skip. Skeleton with some more stuff. Little dungeon explorer fig, which is adorable. Look at this little person. Look at that. Again, Skeleton loves working in these bright colors, this bright grays and whites and yellows. A little bit of the teal there in the cross, which I like, or turquoise or something. So that's really good. And then with the just subtle red highlights there in the interior of the dress. I really don't have much to say on this. This fig is super tiny, and this work is just stellar. I've got some text in this little book. I have the different color eyes. Wanted to point that out. One blue, one green, which is just shockingly good. I mean, this may be, Skeleton, my favorite piece you submitted all month. This fig is small, and this is masterfully executed. Just masterfully. The color palette choice, the way you've used the colors, your transitions. This is a fantastic piece. I absolutely love this little girl. Well done. I have no notes. Keep it up. All right. So Tom, my co-host, finished up his goblins, some of his goblins, his spider people. So Tom and I talked a lot about this. He doesn't need to know my feedback because I gave it all to him as he was sharing them with me during the time working on them. So one of the things Tom was doing here is using sort of the freehand and the glazing of one shade darker, and I'll talk about that some other time, but it's just a method of doing freehand. I had a whole show where I talked about it, but YouTube ate it. But these spiders are gross. They're absolutely horrific, and I hate them. But they are tremendously good work. I really can't look at these guys long or review them because they totally gross me out. That being said, super well done, Tom. Amazingly creepy unit. Good color choices. Good base stuff. All in all, just fantastic. And now we have to leave them before I bomb it. Well done. Spiders are scary. Okay. Back to Rasmus. All right, so Rasmus with his Kossar boys. Again, I don't know where these, I'm trying to see where these are from. Looks like some are maybe, I can't tell if there's like some of the Mordheim type guys or if these are all standalone dudes. I don't know. But again, well done. I think they're supposed to look very varied, extremely varied in their colors. It's hard to tell. The picture's a little fuzzy. We got to get you taking some better pictures, Rasmus. We got to set you up because you're doing some good work here, and I want to be able to see a little better. So that being said, I like what's going on. I think if I only had one note from what I can tell at this point, it would be I would have liked to see a little more of one color on all of them so there was some through line. I understand you probably want to have a great deal of variance in these guys, and that's the idea, and I totally get that. I would just like to see maybe one color be a little more standard on them, and then the other, your secondary and tertiary color varied. That way they sort of do look like a combined unit, because right now they kind of look like, 16 or 15 people just kind of who happened to stand around together but didn't talk much beforehand. So, small note, but there you go. And that's a nice trick for pulling people together. You just pick your primary color, and that stays the same. So like everybody has blue on them or something. And then you can vary your secondary colors if you want to have a very bright unit with a lot of variants. Also a fun trick for Bretonnian Knight Lances if you don't want them, if you want to stay more within a sort of singular color tone. Though I myself am more a fan of, obviously, the Looney Tunes. That is to say, lots and lots of different colors. Bigger bike here. Obviously, this one's got the sidecar ramping up. Again, Victor did the heated metal look on what I assume is like a melta-gun or a plasma gun or something. So very good work there. I really like that. I'm pretty sure Victor actually has a tutorial on that on his channel. So anybody looking to do that heated metal, you can check that out. And that would definitely be very valuable. I think my only small note here is I feel like the steel up here in this part of the gun, it feels a little, this part feels a little monochrome. I feel like maybe a little touch of some brown or a little more dark colors in here. I know that is the tiniest note, Victor. I'm stretching, buddy. I got to give you something. Your work is too good. I do love the little angel on the sidecar. It's just absolutely fantastic. All right, good stuff. We won't dwell. Victor's work is obviously top-notch, and everything I said previously about the bikes applies to these as well. Okay, so Victor had completed his test Liberator, and he has his painting series up right now. So if you are interested in learning how he did this, he has a whole painting series around the units of Liberators he's done to match this. I gave Victor some pretty specific feedback already, but here are my general notes. I very much like the green color he's chosen, especially when used on the shield and the shoulder pads. Let's see if we can get a different shot of the shield here. There we go. So I love how he has the sort of green tone in the center fading out to the bright white. And so this is kind of what I was talking about way back at the beginning with the tonal variation in the shield. It's minor, and I'm sure that Victor spent a fair amount of time, you know, doing these blends, but it's really worth it because when you look at how it makes that pop, right, it looks so much nicer with that tonal variation in there. I really like the green. I like his glowing eyes. He's kept the light inside the eye hole. Exactly. Very good. The outside would not be catching any of that because light travels in straight lines. And he's done some excellent work on catching the edges of this and moving up some nice highlights. So there you go, Victor. Very well done. And as always, Victor always has great basing. I mean, he's always using lots of different rocks and sticks and weapons and stone and grass. It's great. Very, very, very alive with his bases. Okay. So Ryan Easterling did these three, I'm going to say Satixis. I'm probably wrong because I don't know War Machine. But he did these. Okay. So we've got, I'm just going to kind of scan through them and then we'll come back and talk about them. We got the girls here. We got these. I don't know if these are all actually girls. That one definitely is. Okay, they all are. They're all girls. All right. So let's talk about these. I like them. They look good. I think my note is, so here would be my note for you. They look a little dirty, and maybe that's what you're going for. But in general, that it feels like the wash was applied as a later step and then not highlighted back over in some of these cases, or at least not layered over. So in the cases of yellows and stuff like that, I think that if you ever apply a wash, you got to be really careful about making it the last step. Same with the hair. The hair feels a little flat. That is to say, that hair is just mostly red. The other girl's hair is just mostly sort of that auburn color, which does look very good. Like as a base color, that's great. It's a really good pick and a really good application of that sort of orangish auburn color. And I like the color tones you've used here: the orange with the blue, the yellow with the red. These are very contrasting situations, and I like them. So I like your palette. I just feel like the paint is either maybe a little thick, or we're using a wash as a sort of last step or something like that. because the whole model is very muted and very pushed into this sort of ruddy color tone. Now, if that's what you're going for, that's fine. But I would still love to see more variation in the hair and the horns, stuff like that. Because there's a lot of brown, and it kind of all overwhelms without any kind of bonish to bring the horns up, or into a pink or an orange or both in the hair to create the tonal variations you'd see in hair as it catches the light and blows away. Because hair is, there's a reason why like they didn't digitally animate hair for a long time in CGI, because it's really hard to make hair look realistic when you're faking it, because the way it blows and catches light and is sort of a semi-translucent thing. But I'd love to see just some variation in the color here. All in all, very well done. Again, like the color palette, very much like what you've done with the models. I feel like it just needs a little cleanup, and you'll really be onto just some A+ work here. Okay, skip some of my stuff. Tom was a busy month for me. What can I say? Okay, Tom did his goblin big boss on a spider, and this guy is obviously converted, and I think the spider's from Reaper. I'm sure Tom will correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, absolutely great work, Tom. Again, he knows my feedback. I like the purple and the pink. I really love purple with green. Those two colors are fantastic together, so well done there. Yeah, I don't have much in the way of notes for Tom, or he knows them all. All right, here you go, Tom. I'll give you one. These eyes are too dull on your spider. On the spider, I throw some gloss varnish over them. There you go. Get those popping. I'll give Jeff Egan's comment. Get some gloss varnish on those eyes. Make them really shine. There we go. Great work, though, Tom. All right, Mr. Lee Mech Shop with his Festus the Leechlord. A truly gross but wonderful fig. Again, I have a well-known bias against Nurgle. I think we all know that, because he is full of gross figs like this, which are horrendous and nightmare-inducing. But let me get back to one where we're looking vertically. But this guy's he's very well done. Give a little zoom in. There we go. One of the great parts about Nurgle models is they really do let you be gross and experiment with bright, weird colors. And Mr. Lee has absolutely done that here. He's got these bright yellow-green pustules and the sort of toxic slime, the pink and stuff of the blood. Looks really good. I think maybe my only note is where's my glistening blood? I'd love to see some more. Like, if there was ever a time for glistening blood splatter, it's got to be when a Nurgling is mid-process of feeding body parts into some sort of grinder machine or basket or something. So if ever there was a use for blood for the blood god, boy, it would be here with some fresh bloody goop around. But very good work, especially down here. There's one little thing I noticed. His bottle work is great at creating these lines. So it looks like the bottles are half full and they're glass. You look at that. Little details like that are very difficult to get right, but boy, what a good job he did there. All right, good stuff. Moving on. All right. There we go. Lee with his big old soul grinder of Khorne here on the 8-pointed star. So this is really good work. This model's huge. It's obviously very challenging to paint, but he's done a lot of really good things here that I want to touch on. I love his muscle work with the dark browns up to the sort of very lighter color at the highlights. That's very good. He is steel work here. You'll notice there are some darker black tones as well as some brown tones. That's good. Exactly what that's come up a couple of times, and he's done that here. Good execution on that. I like the differentiation into the sort of purplish tones here at various points where the flesh is connecting to other things. So this bone, right, to the steel. So that's very good execution. And I absolutely love the base. Again, very good work on, basically carving this from cork. I mean, he made this by hand, and it looks absolutely great with the 8-pointed blood star of chaos there. Can't argue with that work. That's good work right there. I think if I was going to give one minor, sort of small, very small thing, again, it'd be a little tonal variation in the blood, maybe with like some pinks and stuff, just to create some variation in there. And maybe a little bit of perhaps an oxidizing or something here on this copper, just as an interesting agent. This guy, I don't imagine, keeps very clean. You've got some dirty steel. Not overboard with the oxidization. The key is minor, 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 just in some cracks or something like that. Those are the teeniest, tiniest of notes. You don't need either of them. This guy's fantastic. There you go. Just some small stuff if you wanted to take it up even farther. All right. Boy, oh boy, the War Shrine. This big, crazy, complex, insane model that he, again, knocked out of the park. A lot of different color here. One of the reasons I don't like this model, honestly, is because I find it's just a mess. Like, and I don't mean that in a bad way to Lee's work. I just mean it's a mess. There's too much going on. You have to paint it in all of these insane colors, and so it just looks like a cacophony. My eyes are just confused looking at it. I don't know where to look. Am I supposed to look at the guy, the eyeball in the front, the guys underneath? It's just too much to take in. It's so busy. That being said, Lee, you have executed on this really well with all these bright, stark color contrasts. I want to pay special note to his flame work here in two things. So let's zoom in on this flame. Oh, can't anymore. Okay, we're zooming as we can be. A little too much black on the tips. Fire doesn't really turn black. Like, solid things turn black. So if you're using a whole red or an almost black at the very tip, that's fine. But fire never legitimately turns black. Something carbonizes and it turns black. So there's just a little too much here. But the rest of the fire you've got and your color transitions, the yellow, oranges, and reds, again, is just superior. I feel like this little tip of black is taking it off. Now I want to point out right here this eyeball. This is absolutely stellar. I love the eye up top here and the way he's done that. That's great. And I love the contrast of the blue smoke with the orange flames. I think that's really good. My only complaint is that that is, I think, the only place this blue occurs on this model. At least I believe so. I would have, if we're going to use that here, I would have liked to see that worked in somehow in a few other places, just so it's not so stark. And this is what I'm talking about, the challenge with this model, right? Because you've got all these different things that obviously need to be different colors, woods and metals and organic flesh and magical energies and bone. It is all over the shop. And so it can be a real challenge to paint. And Lee has done a very good job. I think if my only little note's a little black on the flame and the blue in this without any other blue. I probably would have just taken this into a gray smoke or even just made it kind of more fire with just some more smoke on top. Just so it you didn't have that stark contrast where my eyes are just zapped immediately to the blue. All right, skip for me, and we'll go to some Treekin from Thomas Merton's. This guy looks really good. He's nice and mossy and dirty. Lots of different browns and woody and green tones used all over the place here. I like the base work of the little leaves and things scattered about. This very much looks like wood texture. It looks like he used a lot of different washes and dry brushes, which is really the key. When you're working with vegetable matter, like tree people and stuff like that, your friend is, your techniques are simple. It's just washes and dry brushes. And you just keep doing it over and over again. You dry brush, you wash it down. You dry brush through 3 different tones, you wash it down. You're just trying to make lots of different color variations. Because if you've ever seen, go out and look at natural wood, get really close to a tree, like get close to it and look at it, really look at it. Don't just sort of take it in and be like, it's brown, which is what your brain tells you when you just glance. Really look at that tree. You're going to see grays and browns and reds and greens and, blacks. It's all going to be in there. All of that is going to be in that one tree. And you've done a good job here, Thomas, of capturing all that. Also, these Reaper Bones guys are great stand-in for Treekin. And I bet a lot cheaper than the real Treekin. Those guys look great. Okay. And what would Treekin be without Big Papa Tree Man? And so my thought here is I feel like this guy is sort of missing exactly what the other guy down here has, where you got this mossy green. I don't feel like I've got quite enough tonal variation in him. I know you got some green tones in here, some green grays, but I'd love to see maybe some brighter leaves to contrast, or this, like, why is this vine the same color gray bark as the rest of him? I feel like this could have been, I feel like these could have a lot more variation in them. And really these these tree lords, tree men ancients, whatever they're called. I think the key with them is to just keep going. You just keep going with them, and they're fun to work on. It's like I said, it's easy techniques. You just keep, it's the same thing, like I said, you just keep washing and dry brushing, and then you pick out these details like these leaves. I've seen a lot of people make the leaves sort of, red or purple or stuff like that, and I think a little bit of something like that, like if this had autumnal coloration of the leaves, or maybe really bright green, I think that could have really done a long way to popping this out. If the Stranglethorn here or his claws were in that green spectrum, just something in there to add some more tonal variation, I think he would really be great. I love your woodwork around his plates and pieces. This looks like some weathered oak or something, so that's good. But again, like, why are the leaves here in the same color? Like his loincloth is made of leaves, and yet it's the same color as the oak, right? So just stuff like that. Okay. All right. So here we have a zombie chihuahua. I don't even know what to say to this thing. Take it in, folks. Drink in the beauty of this model. If you have ever seen a more adorable model in all your life, it's a zombie chihuahua with a bone. This is the most adorable model that's ever been created in the history of the world. This is right up there with the pooping goblin and the chicken. So, I mean, it's just fantastic. And again, so tiny. And Skeleton, you've done such a good job again with the contrasts on this. You look at like the deep lines around each of the stitches and stuff. All the outlining work he's done to create these hard contrasts on a tiny mini, so it really stands out. I don't have notes for you on this, man. I wouldn't even know where to approach this thing, which is no bigger than your thumbnail, and yet all this tonal variation. That zombie chihuahua is a freaking masterpiece. Beautiful. All right. I'll skip my other stuff. I'll just say here was my finished army. And so here we go. You're curious at all as to what I painted. A lot of this was painted this month, not all of it. But here we have the fully assembled Bretonnian Grail Guard with their portals in the background. All my prosecutors flying in, and the full bevy of all my different characters, and liberators and judicators and retributors and other words I can never remember. So there you go. If you're curious as to what a whole converted army looks like, there it is. Some of these I'm really proud of, and some of them I absolutely hate. And that's part of the fun of doing a different color scheme on each unit and really pushing it and experimenting. A lot of fun with this was the experimentation. And let me just say, don't ever be afraid to experiment on things, to do crazy. Like I was like, oh, try different new kinds of paints. I tried like RC car paints and stuff like that. Different techniques, pull in different things, really just push yourself. It is going to fail. You will fail sometimes. Like I think these guys right here, these fire guys, I think they look god-awful. Let me just say that. I don't find them very appealing. But hey, we tried. The wings are okay. It's just that it's the models themselves that just fall flat. But hey, that's okay. Sometimes you get that. Sometimes you get like this wolf howly moon thing I put on the shield, which I love and I'm really happy with. It's just freehand on the shield, and that came out well. So, I mean, you're going to lose, you're going to win. It's okay. Don't be afraid to try. That's what I want to say. So there you go. Very happy with them, and the Grail Guard are officially in the rear view. So there you go. The army is ready to go. All right, getting to the end of the month. Skeleton flower with another nice one here. I like the blood on the saw. Good stippling work here. I would like to see maybe a little more tonal variation in the flood or in the blood, but just because I don't see any dark brown in there, and dried blood turns dark brown in about 5 minutes. I remember if you go watch my hobby adventure with Paul, which is on my channel several months back, where we did blood effects, after effects with blood. While working on the models for that, I actually accidentally cut myself pretty bad with a X-Acto knife, and I took advantage of that to then put that into a Kleenex and take pictures of it at like 2, 5, and 10 minutes. And pretty much at 10 minutes, that blood is brown when it's exposed to the oxygen. So, like, unless he just sawed somebody in half 5 seconds ago, that blood would have some brown in it. But again, that's a minor nit. You can see the purple there doing the same thing I mentioned previously. So flesh tones may be your friend with that. But great use on the white grays, on the robe, the blending on that's fantastic. And I absolutely love the tube. I think he did a great job with that, going from the dark green out to the white. I think that looks like it's pumping some hot warp energy, which it's not the right game for that, but I don't care. When I see green tubes, I think like a Skaven. Great job. Okay. So let's see. Lee Escroft had some more chaos. And these are obviously the Blood Warriors from, I think these guys are actually from, I don't know if there's some of them are from the box set and some are from the Age of Sigmar box set and some are from the Unique box. I wanted to point out, I think his red looks really clear, really bright. I love the color tone change. I wanted to especially call attention to this banner because I love the purple brownish tone up to the bright yellow orange here he's done on this. That's a fantastic color transition, man. So absolutely well done. I think my minor note is just on the bases. The bases are a little flat. I would like to see, this is supposed to be blood. I get it, like the rest of the blood. That's fine. I've mentioned it twice already, so I won't belabor the point. But I think things like this could use a little something, some darker colors in here, and it could be just a flash knocking out the black tone, because it looks like there's a flash in here. But just some variation in the blood, some darker tones, browns and such in the stone, I think would serve you well. But these guys are great. Gold is bright. The red is bright. Looking good. All right, Dice Miniature Paint Guy with his Blood Secretor, the big totem guy. And I love this fig. I think he has really a lot of fun to paint. I've done this fig twice, although both were converted. I didn't use the spine here either times, and I only used his big totem once, and I never used this head. That being said, Dice, you've done a great job with him here. Again, so we've got, just to hammer home on some points, he's gotten some nice color, sort of darker edging here under the gold. That's good to edge out the plates. That's a very good thing to do. He's created nice tonal variation in the red. We can see the brighter red here in the middle, which is the key to making big symbols, big flat spaces like this pop, to have the edges near the metal be dark and the center be sort of brighter. She's executed on very well there. Yeah, I mean, this guy's really good. Of course, I think we all know what my one piece of feedback is going to be, which is, where's the base, buddy? This guy's on plastic. That's not, if it's not based, it's not finished, Dice. What are you doing, bud? I want to see some lava or blood or rocks or dead grass. Come on. The chaos doesn't march across black plastic. But overall, very well done, very well executed. Especially good work on the skin tones up here in the face as well. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that. This guy, absolutely great looking face. I mean, let's zoom in and really look at that, because he did a wonderful job there with, like, he really hitting all the different levels of the skin tones there. That's fantastic. You can see the reds and things like that. The reds, the grays, the dark browns. Very good work. All right. So G Ambulance Service did some Slanesh demons, as well as some non-Slanesh. So we've got the Changeling here. And then here's some beautiful Slanesh demons. Always glad to see that. The Mask and some Daemonettes and some Seekers. Absolutely fantastic. So very good stuff here. I like his base with the sort of gray stone. Good, good stuff there. I could go for a little bit of maybe vegetation here or there. That's minor. That's minor. Isn't needed. I like the tonal variation on the girls. That is to say, I like the pale white skin. I really like the pinks he's used for the hair. That looks good. And I very much like the skin tone of the Seekers, being this white. A couple of these, though, I guess it's this sort of darkish green. It feels kind of flat here, like along here. That was my only thing. That's the only thing that really stood out to me, is that I feel like I need some more variation here in some of these. Like, you did it really well here, where I can capture it. These two look really well highlighted, and these two look kind of flat. So I'm not sure what happened there. But that's, you know, pretty minor nit, really. These guys look great, and I'm always happy to see Slaanesh. Look at those beautiful girls. Ready to just claw your face right off. Fantastic. Okay. Ace and T, finishing up some more Stormcast. Here we've got the prosecutors coming in. Very nice work on the wings. I think he mentioned that the wings were done with airbrush, and boy, are they a great use of it. I love the color fade here between the dark blue way out to the white. That looks fantastic. I especially like how he's kind of caught them. You can see he did it at an angle. It's very good airbrush control, because you can see the lighter color tracing up these ridges. So he's done a really good job with that airbrush control here. Well done. The gold really pops. No issue there. I would say bases we could maybe do a little more on. We got like 2 tufts and some flat grit. I feel like that's a bit underwhelming given how nice the models look, but that's okay. That is, again, a minor thing at best. Good work on the reds. I like that. I like the contrast with the blues. Very solid overall. We'll scan through a couple more pics here. There we go. Good stuff. Okay. And then here we've got his Retributors. I don't know. Again, I actually like these very much. I like these a little more than the Prosecutors, just because the red really works on these guys. He's done an excellent job with the fade here of the deeper brown red up to the orange on the shoulders. And he's actually caught that very well. Again, I feel like I need a little bit more on the base here, buddy, than just this sort of brown tuft stuck down into rock. I feel like I need some actual dirt, because this looks like sand, and I get it. They're sort of meant to be deserty, I guess, or salt flats or something like that. I just feel like I need a little something to. This bush really does just look stuck on there. But that being said, again, that is a minor complaint, because these are great work. They're bright, very nice work picking out all the details, great color transitions. Yeah, really, really good. All right, we'll skip up mine and we'll go to Hooves of Doom, who finished his 10 Seekers. Oh, man, I'm loving all this Slaanesh. Let me just say that. Very bright pink he's chosen to go with here, and I will say I love the contrast of the dark black against the white and the pink. So demons, I think, work really well when you do them in basically 3 colors. I'm not saying you can't have more than 3 colors on the mini, you know, but basically they are 3 color minis, and that's not a bad thing. You can still have lots of tonal variation in those 3 colors. But I think they look very otherworldly, and he's really captured that here with these bright, crazy colors that you wouldn't expect in reality. So my one note is actually going to kind of be the same as what I said about G's Seekers. Very popular this month, the Seekers. Which I guess their ability to move like 40 inches in a single round in Age of Sigmar is upping their stock. So my only thing is I feel like the pink doesn't have enough in the color transitions. It all feels very stock. Like I'd love to see some pink into the white. And pink white's actually, and it looks like maybe there's a little down here, or it's catching the light. It's hard to tell. But I like these 2. So let's see if we can kind of take a side view with this. Looks like we got a little here on some of these that have ridges, but I'd love to see more, like here, it looks like we caught a little, but I'd love to see more here too. And on the edges of their hair, you know, pick out some of those strands, transition them into like a blue-white, you know, don't be afraid to go that way. Okay. But, oh, we got the regular daemonettes too. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm about to skip them. I shouldn't do that. Same notes there. But all in all, this is great. I absolutely love the color palette he's used. I like the dark black with the pink and the white. It's wonderful. They're very eye-catching. Okay. Good stuff. All right, Rasmus with some more Orrick mounted cab. I really like these figs. I especially like this one. I love the chain sort of skirts hanging down and the horse in this sort of up position. It's a great looking mini. So I think what I would say here is, again, it's kind of tough to tell. I feel like I think we mentioned it in like the comments. We need some clearer pictures on like white or something like that. My only notes would be that, and I actually bet this is probably the camera knocking us out, especially given the sort of lighting. But I'd love to see more tonal variation in the gray to white of the horse, something like that. He looks very stark white, whereas I'd like to see some sort of organic grays in there. But other than that, I mean, these guys look good. I don't really have much to add to them. Yeah, there you go. Good stuff. All right. Oh, and that was it. That was the last one. That brings us up to October. So we will start there next month in October. Wow, didn't even realize we had gotten to the end. So there we go. With that, that brings us to the end of September's work. So what I will say is, of course, customary to choose a favorite, you know, at the end of the month. As always, I know it's only me, so that's kind of, that seems kind of underwhelming. So instead of me picking a favorite, here's what I want. What I would like you guys to do is when you watch this, if you get to this point, first of all, thank you for watching. Secondly, I want everybody to put their favorite down below. Tell the people who submitted what your favorite was out of all of these for this month's submission. Okay? Did you like the old school orcs, the jet bikes, the Malifaux figs, you know, some of the terrain, the Bloodthirsters, you know, all that stuff. So tell everybody what you thought their favorite was. That seems like way more fun. And that way I don't have to be the judge and be put on the spot. Haha, I've escaped again. So there we go. Thank you again, as always, to everyone who submitted. It is super appreciated. I'll go ahead and stop sharing now for this last couple moments. So thank you all very much to everybody who submitted. Absolutely stellar work this month in the PMP. Don't forget about the budget of Sigmar, which is our 6-month painting sort of escalation budget tale of painters type of contest. I've got a video about that. I will link to that below. It was my last video that I put up. And you can see how you can participate in that wonderful community project. I'm very excited. A lot of people have already said they're joining, and I'm looking forward to it too. I already painted up my first test model for what I want to do, which is some Tzeentchian chaos. There we go. There's that guy. So you'll see him soon enough. I'm going to use Stormguard heads for all of them. Haha, I'm going to put those Stormguard, waste not, want not. That's what I say. I'll put all those heads that I chopped off for when I was using the Bretonnian Knight heads to good use with some golden masks of Tzeentch. Thank you to everybody who watched. Thank you very much to everybody who submitted. If you want to join the PMP, the link is down below. Go ahead and click that request to join, and we'll get you in. As always, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.